Journalist Wan Wansum joins me on the news from Hong Kong via Skype for more of this new resolution. Good to have you join us, Wan Wansum. A lot of people have interpreted this as an attempt by China to silence the opposition in Hong Kong. How is the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong interpreting this?
Well, certainly we have now come to a very critical moment when all the election opportunities are seemingly trying to rule out all the pro-democratic politicians. The pro-democratic camp will face a lot of obstacles with regard. There will be a review committee to review their qualification in joining any election. So even though the elections are still there, even though the structure have changed, but the main point is they may not have the opportunity to join any election. Even if they join the election, the committee can disqualify them on the basis of whether they are patriotic enough and whether they have previous speeches or viewpoints on anti-government, even in their social media. So it would be a very hard time for the democratic parties to move on in the election in Hong Kong. So other than election path, the pro-democratic camp are also under the threat of the national security law.
And that's where I really want to go. Just allow me quickly jump in, because someone described this new resolution as Beijing's attempt to remake Hong Kong in its own Hong Kong's political system in its own image. Now, with the new national security law, are we likely to see any protest?
We are not able to see any protests when the national security have come into force last July, but part of the reason was due to the pandemic reason. So the government have used pandemic reasons of social distancing to prevent people from gathering in public places. So we have even not really formal gathering, not to say about protests on the streets. We cannot see any protests that we have been seeing in 2019. So the protests have largely died down because of the pandemic, and with the national security law is putting in force, a lot of restrictions have put into the freedom of expression. So we see 47 politicians who have joined in the pro-democratic primary election have been arrested under the national security law, and they have been charged of relevant charges. So it's seeming that the pro-democratic movement in Hong Kong have come to a halt in this
absolutely
half a year.
And there seems to be some level of clampdown on dissent by Beijing, in Hong Kong. But what can the international community do here? Because several attempts, we've seen several sanctions on high-level individuals in Beijing. We've also seen several condemnations, but Beijing seems to be moving forward with the plans. So what can the international community do now?
I think the only way is to keep voicing out, even though the sanctions have too little effects on the determination of the Beijing authorities. They seem to, as you said, they seem not to stop in anywhere pursuing their way of controlling Hong Kong's, of tightening Hong Kong's, their hands on the rule of Hong Kong. So the only way we are going to hope for the help of the international community is for them to speak out and try to get every people keep the eye of the international concern on our country. So even though they may not be very bloody massacres, something like June 4 would happen in the future. We will not imagine things like that, but they are tightening the control, and the freedom of expression or freedom of press have been significantly decreased in this half a year and in a speed that we have not imagined.
This is quite sad to see, but there's a meeting between the US, Australia, and India, and China is to be discussed. So we'll see how, what level of sanction or condemnation will arise from that meeting. Journalist One Wasum, thanks for talking to us.
Okay, thank you.